Hey, what's good everybody? It's your boy Cedric. Welcome back to SweetScale TV. Today's episode, we're gonna be checking out Novation's MK3. Quick spoiler alert, this thing's fire. So what I wanna do is compare the MK3 to the Launchpad X. Check out the upgrades Novation did from the MK2 to the MK3. And in my opinion, I think the MK3 almost stacks up to the Push 2. So we're gonna compare both of those controllers. But before we get started, if you haven't already joined the SweetScale family, hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification. And I get asked this question on Instagram quite often. Why would you spend money on a controller when you can just use FL Studio or even in Ableton, Logic Pro, you can just click everything in? Let me just say, I know a ton of producer friends that just use their laptop to produce and they come up with insane beats. Growing up and being a musician, I've always been used to playing an instrument. Then when I started producing, well, I gravitated to what I know. So I played my chords, I played my melodies. I think for that reason, when it came time to creating drums, I gravitated to a controller. It never even triggered in my mind I could create drums by clicking everything in. Now that I think about it, Zaytoven's the same way. You've never really seen him behind a computer. Like, he'll click record, but then you see him building the drums. You see him doing the 808s on the drum pad. You see him playing keys. And music is all about feeling, and I feel really connected when I use a drum pad. I've done a few times where I've clicked in hi-hats and stuff like that, and it's cool, but I don't feel it like I do a drum pad just because I'm used to it. And like I said, I see a ton of you amazing producers clicking everything in, and yo, you guys are killing the game. You guys make it sound really good. This is just what I'm used to. There's no right or wrong way. I always say that with music, there is no right or wrong way. The only wrong way is if you're not feeling it. So we got the Launchpad X, the MK2, the MK3, and the Push 2. What we're going to be focused on is the MK3, and I want to compare the MK3 to the other three controllers. The Launchpad X is like your very basic controller in Ableton. It's missing a lot of the features. I would never do a performance with just the Launchpad X. I would need another controller. One of the important features as a performer is being able to duplicate a clip. You don't have that option on the Launchpad X. You don't have a quantize button, a double button. There's a lot of features you're missing. I don't know if I'm gonna even keep it now that I got the MK3. I wouldn't recommend the Launchpad X to anyone unless you're looking for the very basic. The MK2 is a pretty good controller. However, the MK3 has everything the MK2 has and more. The only issue I have with the MK2 and the Launchpad X also is missing this feature. Something that's so simple but so important, it doesn't have a stop and start button. I really feel like the MK2 and the Launchpad X is strictly made for people that are doing live performances. The MK3, I feel like Novation started considering producers a lot more, and you have a stop and start button. Something so simple but makes a big difference. The MK3 is a huge upgrade. I'm very, very, very impressed with it. Before we do the comparison of the MK3 to the Push 2, let's take a look at some of the features on the MK3. Like I said, on the MK2, there's no stop or start button, which is found right here on the MK3. I know you can go user mode and create a play and stop button, but who wants to have to go to user mode and press a button and then go back to user mode or go back to session view? No one wants to do that. The fact that I'm able to start and stop, whether I'm in session view or arrangement view, it doesn't matter. That's a huge addition, so great job, Novation. The second feature I find that's really dope, the up and down arrow buttons are found on the top of the MK2. On the MK3, they are on the side where it just feels like it's the right place for the buttons to be, and you still got your left and right. It just makes sense to have them in a column as opposed to on top. I'm gonna get rid of the MK2 now because I want to focus specifically on the MK3, and then we'll get to comparing the MK3 to the Push 2. Again, you have your navigation with your arrows. You got your delete button. Duplicate and double is now one button as opposed to two buttons. To access double, you would just hit shift and double. You got quantize. Fixed length is a new addition, which wasn't on the MK2. Your play as well as capture MIDI, it's all there. So now one of the features that I wish was on the side but isn't is undo, but you just gotta click shift, undo, shift, redo. Not that big of a deal. You can add your click by hitting shift, click. So you got your record arm, mute, solo, volume, pan, sends, device, and stop clip. And if you hit shift, you got undo, redo, click, as well as tap for tap tempo. Anyone that has the MK2 or is used to using a Novation controller, you guys know about the note feature. Right now the note feature is turned off. To turn it on, I'd hit this red button, it then turns green. Notice without the note feature turned on, this is the pad settings. Once I turn the note feature on and go back to notes, it looks different. Keyscape opened up. We're in the minor scale. If I want to change the scale, this is your piano scale. To make it simple, let's go to C major. So this is C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And then you got C sharp, D sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp. So if I want a minor scale, I'd click on the first button here, major. And then we have all these different other scales. We're still in C. If I want to change the root note, I would click on piano roll right here. So now we're in F. So this is F major, F minor, D major, E major. You got all these different scales. I really couldn't tell you what the scales are off the top of my head, but I mean, there's a ton of features, ton of options for you to work with. And the buttons in orange are different ways for you to view the scale. So go back to C major. I think this is my favorite because you're able to play the scale with 3 fingers. And if I want to go up an octave, down an octave. So that's a pretty cool feature. That isn't anything new. What's new is the chord feature. So if we go to chord, by clicking the orange arrows, you're playing chords. And this is the octave. So you have different chords in your orange column. If I was to play the notes in the rows, you can come up with your own scales. And of course you don't have to stay in one row, you can freestyle. Let's say I like that chord. What I could do is play the chord and save it. So I'd hit this button right here. And I can continue adding to that chord. If I want to remove a note, I just hit the same button and then remove the note. And you can have 14 different chords. Now let's say you're still searching for other notes and you don't want them to automatically save to your chords. Hit the red button right here and you can start auditioning different notes. Now let's say I want to go back to saving it, hit this button that's now green, and now it's going to start recording. And you can go ahead and delete whatever you don't want. This is really user friendly for anyone that doesn't play piano. You want to come up with chords, and you can keep switching back and forth. You can go from right now we're in major, I can go to minor and then go back to chord, and it still has the previous chords I recorded. They haven't gone anywhere, but now we have a minor scale. So that's a really cool feature. I don't think that feature is found on the Push 2. A lot of the features found on the Push 2, minus the touch bar, are found on the MK3. If I go to session view, I'm able to arm different tracks. Well, that feature is also available on the MK3, and it's actually a lot easier to push down on the buttons than it is on the Push 2. Another great feature that MK3 has is it does have sequencer mode. For the sequencer mode, you have 3 different options. Option 1 is for drums. Option 2 is for chords, and option 2 will give you whatever scale you have chosen in the note mode and no other notes. So you can never play a note that's not within the scale that you have in note mode. And then option 3 is just like having a piano with all the notes. A couple different ways you can use a sequencer with chords, you can hold down a certain pad and then play the notes you want added. And once I hit the play button, you'll notice it's a quick stab. Now if I want to increase that time, I can hold down the note and then I'm just gonna add in a hi-hat, like an 8-bar. So to record the 16 count, I hit record. Alright, so let's say I like that drum pattern. It's actually not in a scene. So what I have to do is hit print to clip, and that will now go into a clip. And I can continue adding to the loop by just hitting record in note mode. So if I was gonna rate this controller, I would give it a solid 9 out of 10. It would have been a perfect 10 on 10 if Novation had added the note repeat, but that's not a big deal, because if you are looking for the note repeat, especially for drums, there's a way around that. I'll talk about that in a future episode. But great job, Novation. I rate this. I would highly recommend it for mobility, and if anyone can't afford the Push 2, this is a great alternative. It's your boy Cedric from SweetScale TV. I'm signing out. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys in the next episode.